Hey, what's up guys? It's Pedro here from NoobCoder.com, and in this tutorial we're going to talk about the content pane and how we can add components into that content pane. Now, to get an illustration of what the hell a content pane is, let's run our previous code. So here we have our JFrame, and inside our JFrame there's something called the content pane. And basically what the content pane allows us to do is we can add components to the content pane and display it to the user. So to give you an example, we're going to say GUI.getContentPane. And if we hover over this, you can see that this method returns a container. So we're going to save this to a variable, call it pane. Bam. Okay, so we got our content pane. It's saying, hey, we can't resolve this type, so we're going to have to import it. And you can see that our import is right here. So Control S to save that. And now, just to show you that this content pane exists, we are going to change the background. So I'm going to say pane.set background, and this accepts a color object. So I'm going to say new color, and this takes 3 arguments, so RGB colors, red, green, and blue. So if you're not familiar with colors, if I have 0 of red, 0 green, and 0 of blue, that creates black. And now we're going to import the color class. So now let's Control S to save, and let's run this. And you can see that here we go. We have our JFrame. And then inside our JFrame is the content pane. So this is where we're going to be inserting a couple of components. So let's close this. And I just want to get rid of this code. I just wanted to show you that the content pane does exist. So another thing you could do with the content pane is I can set the layout. So I can say set layout, new border layout. Now the content pane by default is already a border layout, so I really don't need this code. But we can set the content pane to a bunch of other layouts. We're not going to cover that in this tutorial. I just want to show you that you can set the layout of the content pane. And if you don't understand what's going on, just keep following the tutorial. And we're going to see what exactly is the border layout. So now we're going to create 5 JButtons. So what a JButton is a component, and it's just a button. And I'm going to name it East. I'm going to say new JButton. And now here we're going to pass in the name of the button we want to label it as. So we're just going to call it East. Control-Shift-O to import the JButton class. So here we go. We have it imported so we could use it. And we're going to do this a couple of times. So let's just copy and paste this. So we're going to have East, West. We're going to have Center. We're going to have South and North. Okay, so now we have all these buttons that we created, but now we want to add these components, these buttons, into our content pane. So how do we do that? Well, we just say pane.add. And you can see that it tells you that we need 2 arguments. We need the component and we need the constraint. So now that we're using the border layout, the component is just the JButton because a JButton is a component. So we're going to say East. And the constraint is where do we want to put that button. So we're going to say border layout dot, and we should have something saying East. So we have the east button and we want to put it on the east of the border layout. So we're just going to copy this because we have a couple more buttons to add to our content pane. And we're going to say west. And I think you can see what we're actually doing now. Center, center, north, north, and finally south, south. So Control S to save, and this looks good. So let's actually run this and see what we got. So here we have our JFrame, here's our content pane, and here's what's happening. So we created 5 JButtons, and we added it to the content pane, and we can see that we added east, and we said, hey, I want you to put the east button where the border layout.east is, which is here. And then the same thing with west. So you see that the west button is here, you see that the center button is here, and the north button is here, and the south button is here. So that's pretty much the border layout. Now there's a bunch of other layouts that allow you to have more flexibility where you could put your items, but this is a good example of how to create components and how to place them within your JFrame application. So I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Like, comment, subscribe.